Okay, let's continue our journey in regards to the iPhone versus Android. And as you can see here, we're still on about.com and we are looking at their review in regards to the iPhone versus Android. If you haven't seen the prior movies that I have done in regards to this exercise, looking at the iPhone versus Android or any smartphone in general, then I will suggest you go and see them first, because that's where I describe the 5 factors that I'm using. So the exercise here is all about looking at this review here, and they are using 13 factors. I go in and look at these 13 factors. I translate that to the 5 factors that I'm using in regards to evaluating smartphones, or in this case here, the iPhone and Android. The last movie we left with factor number 4, and that was gaming. And we will go now to factor number 5, and that has something to do with the GPS system, and I'll take it from there when we reach that point. Okay, here we arrived at point number 5, the GPS navigation. And let me say up front that both systems, or both phones, the iPhone and the Android, needs access to the internet. And when we look at these two systems, they are very much similar in the way they do stuff in regards to turn by turn and directions. It has to be said that Apple left Google Map behind and created their own map navigation system. It has to be said in the beginning they had issues with that system because graphics and sometimes the directions was not correct. It seems that they have got all that corrected. So when I look at both systems, they are just very, very much similar. So when I look at GPS navigation here, I convert that into functionality and versatility, because I can use a smartphone as a GPS. But there's one thing more that we have to have in consideration, and that is reliability and service. And that has not so much to do with the phone itself. It has to do with the service provider we have in regards to our cell phones. Because if I'm out there in nowhere and I'm trying to use my GPS system and there is no reception, then that can be an issue. But that has nothing to do with the phone. It has something to do with the cell phone carrier that we are using in regards to our phone. Just have that in mind. So here, functionality versus versatility and the reliability and service. Let's go to point number 6. Okay, let's take a look at number 6, Flash versus HTML5. Let me say up front, I don't think it's an issue forwards. It was a couple of years back in regards to Flash contents, and that the issue were that Apple was not able to show Flash contents on their phones. It has to be said that now Adobe came out not long ago and said they are not supporting Android forward. They cannot make any workable version of Flash working on Android, so therefore they're dropping it. So it is really only the Androids, the older Android models in the phone, that can show Flash content, and then of course Android tablets. We all know that Apple or the iPhone and the iPad doesn't show Flash content, but that was a conscious decision from Steve Jobs. I don't want to get into why he did that, other than one of the reasons was that Flash needs a lot of calculation. It's very resource demanding, and that's the reason why we all were going in the direction of HTML5. And I can say already now, I believe that HTML5 will be the new Flash and will be used to generate most contents out there in the future. So when we go in and look at HTML5 and we look at Flash, HTML5 in regards to functionality and versatility is about the same as Flash, but needs not that much calculation, that many resources, and therefore longer battery time. And then reliability and service is that comes down to the battery again. If you're out there and you have to look for a charge all the time, then that has a negative effect on reliability and also the productivity. Therefore, I can only say that Apple have based their whole operation system on that HTML5 will be the future. So therefore, I can only say that they have done anything in their power to embrace HTML5, where Android is coming along now, but is a little bit behind, but I'm sure they will catch up. So let's go to the next point. Okay, let's take a look at number 7, battery life. We all would wish that our batteries in our smartphone would last much, much longer. And they are both, Android manufacturers and Apple are working on making the battery last longer, and they have been very successful because when I had an iPhone 1, or the first iPhone, and how many features there was in that and how long the battery lasted, now there's even more features, it's even faster, and the battery lasts longer. So they're really working on it. I can see Android have expanded, their phones are bigger. That means there's more room for bigger batteries. So when it comes to battery life, both of them are working on making the phone more reliable and a better service. And we all know the longer we can work on our phone without having to look for an outlet, you better. And both of them are doing a great job. So let's go to the next point. Okay, point number 8, screen size. How big is too big? Let me start with saying that the Androids today, I feel, have a great size. Because if it gets too bigger, then why not just make the mini iPad to a phone and then that's it? So I think that's about the maximum size of a screen. I love the Android in regards to that size. And me, who is a little bit up in the years, needs glasses, and with a bigger screen, it's better for me to navigate. So I love bigger screens. I can see in regards to the iPhone that they extended the screen from 4 to 5, but I could like if the iPhone could get just a little bit bigger, then that would just be perfect. Not too big, because I also want to be able to put it in my shirt pockets or my back pocket, so it has to be easy to store away also. But that comes back to usability and presentation and productivity, because if you can see what you're doing where it's not too narrow, your fingers can't be smaller than they already are, and I don't want a stylus to do it, I want a finger to do it. So the right size that you can see it without having to wear glasses all the time. Yes, you're bigger, you're better, but where the Android is today, that is the maximum size. So here I love the Android screen. It's just perfect for a person like me, and I'm sure that others like screens that is big. Let's go to the next point. Okay, let's take a look at number 9, networking. And here we're talking about the features that smartphone has. And let me say that most phones today are 3rd generation ready, 4th generation ready, LTE ready, and so on. So most cell phones today are using the GSM, the CDMA, and the APS cell phone technology. And I'm talking about the US, I'm not talking about Europe, Asia, and so on. I'm talking about the US. So that's nearly the same for all phones, 96%, and we're talking about Androids and iPhone. Where the difference comes is really about the cell phone provider, what they offer the customers, and also how their network covers the areas. And I'm talking here about the US, because if you have bad receptions, then it doesn't matter what your phone can do. It has something to do with the service that is provided from your cell phone provider. Also, it comes down to reliability, service, and productivity. Why? Because reliability, I've said it before, is that if you're out in nowhere and you have no reception and the service is low, then the reliability is low, because if you can't get in touch with the network and you can't serve the net, make requests, GPS, and so on, then that's a problem. And if you have a good reception and you have 4G, LTE, and so on, then the speed is higher, and that means that productivity goes up. So today everybody is about equal when it comes to the smartphone, but in regards to the network out there, the cell phone provider, we all know that there's differences in regards to the coverage provided in the US. Okay, let's move further to number 10. Okay, let's look at number 10, carriers. And that really comes back to point number 9 in regards to the networks, is that most phones today have 3G, 4G. It really comes down to the carriers and what they do in regards to services, how good they cover, like here for us here in the US. Again, it's cooked down to reliability, service, and productivity. 9 and 10 comes in hand, because most smartphones today can do what it has to be done to connect to the different networks. It's just that here with the carriers, they have to be better in regards to their coverage, where you can get receptions, so that if you're out in nowhere, you get the max reception as possible, so that you have reliability, the service, and then when everything runs fast, you can log on, then the productivity raises. So that goes hand in hand. Okay, let's look at point number 11. Okay, let's take a look at number 11, user experience, elegance versus customization. Let me say up front, this issue is really up to the end user, because there is users out there who love to be able to customize their phone, tweak them, sometimes replace icons, sometimes like icons disappears, and that's where the Android is very strong. Where when it comes to the iPhone The iPhone is much more restricted to how much you can change and how much you can do to the phone in regards to, how can I say, customize it. But here is the thing. When I look at usability and presentation and productivity, is that if you are used to use something and everything is in the same place as it always is, when you buy a new phone, it always takes a while until you learn to navigate the phone, get to where you would like to go, change stuff on the run. If you customize it, that makes it more difficult. And if you ever need any help remotely and they have to go in and help you, how do they know how your phone look like? Because if you can change things, if you can change the icons, perhaps even the text and so on, if you can make stuff disappear, how can you ever say, hey, go in and find this, click this, or press this, do this, if this not exists? So that for me makes something in regards to usability and presentation more difficult. And also when you want something to be quick in regards to productivity, you have to know where to press. It has to have a flow to it. And if I sit with one phone or another phone, or if let's say I go in and buy a new iPhone or a new Android, if things are not like it used to be, then it always takes a while to get stuff done. And many times just the notion where to go, find it quickly, do it, make things quick. If you then have difficulties to find stuff, that definitely have an influence on productivity, definitely. So have that in mind. So usability, presentation, and productivity has something to do. If you can find it, you know where it is, you know how to set it up, then it is faster, I think. Okay, let's move on to number 12. Okay, let's look at point number 12, user maintenance. And here we are looking at storage and battery, and I can only say that Android is just great, really. I love that you are able to upgrade the storage and that you can replace a battery. We all know, go out and buy a phone on 16 gigabyte, and then later we said, oh, we should have some more because I'm using it to take pictures and video, I'm using it for so many things, but now I have to sell this phone or give it up and get a new one with much more storage. Here you can go in and say, hey, I can replace it, I can upgrade the storage. Great, keep the phone and just upgrade the storage. I like it. Replacement of batteries, we all know, we have been out there where we get told there's only 10% left, and where is the outlet? And if we are out in the field, when we are out where there is no outlet, or we don't have our charger with us, there's nothing worse than to know that we cannot operate the phone because our battery is running out of juice. So just that you can take it out, replace it with another battery, I love it. iPhone should learn something, really. I like that by a phone, and that comes down to reliability, service, and security. The reliability and the service is that just that you can work with the phone, like with the battery, that it runs out, then you can just put another one in, or you would like more storage on a phone, or let's say that you're out there taking pictures, and just for the moment, you just need a little bit more space so you can continue taking pictures. That's reliability and service. In regards to security, if you can go in and replace the storage, where have that storage been before? I mean, if you can exchange something, the chances for infection, I'm talking here about virus infections, is higher. Let's look at point number 13. Okay, let's take a look at 13, costs. Let me just say that if I look at all the carriers out there, their price policy with a 2-year contract is nearly the same across all the carriers. AT&T, Verizon. Yes, then sometimes you can get certain phones for a certain price, but when we are talking about the Android and we are talking about the iPhone, then it's about the same. If you sign up for a 2-year contract, you can get this phone for so much and this phone for so much, and it's very, very similar. Where it comes down to is reliability and service. We have been into that before in regards to the network, that it depends on service. How much do they cover, like here in the US? If I'm out in nowhere, can I get a reception? Can I make phone calls? What about my DPS? Does it work? And then also, when I look at these, and that is my opinion really, is that Verizon has very good receptions out there. I think it's the best, really. But their billing sucks, and their pricing. When it looks at AT&T, they're getting better at it, and they're catching up very quickly, and I love their billing. I love the way the whole thing is set up, that if you don't use it, you can transfer it, instead of like the rest of them, where they're saying if you don't use it, you'll just lose it. That's it. Again, most of the time, there is nothing for free out there, really. So let's look at the last point, 14. Okay, point number 14, and that's the last point in all these factors for About.com, was the bottom line. It comes down to the individual user. And how do I describe it? I describe it like, what is the individual user's demand? What is their need? when it comes to a smartphone. That comes down to functionality. What is it I need the phone to do to satisfy my demand? So we look at functionality. What is my needs, not just today, but in the future? That's the versatility, because can I expand on the phone? Can I make the phone work with other devices? And then reliability. As I have mentioned before, we all want to be sure when we turn it on and off that it works. We want to be sure that we have a reception. We want to be sure that we can navigate it. We want to be sure that things work in regards to the apps in the way that we expect them to work. And in regards to services, if the phone breaks, what about getting it repaired? When it comes to services, what about the service provider? Well, how is their coverage over here in the US? And then not least, security. For some people, security is not a big issue, but it is for me. I don't want anybody to snoop around in my private matters and business matters, really. I want to be sure that the security is so high that I could end up perhaps lose it or get it stolen, but I don't have to worry that people have access to my content that easily. So when I look at it, security is one thing, but security has an impact on reliability. One thing is literally missing in all this, and that is viruses. It is so important that we take a look at that, because I do it with computers also. It can't be true that I have to install a lot of software to make sure that my phone is secure in any way, because remember, virus is not so that they just disrupt the way I use the phone. It could be logging onto the network, it could be open some apps and so on, but it could also be a hack. They can get into my computer, they can access my content, they can send it to people I don't know, I don't want them to have a look at my contents and so on. So security and viruses is so important. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of new apps out there, and that comes back to reliability again, and perhaps also a little bit of productivity, because when you install all this software, then the phone will be slow. And also, I can use money on virus protection stuff, and we all know that our service only lasts for, let's say, 6 months or a year, then we have to renew it. So it's a recurring expense all the time to keep our phones secure, not just in regards to the apps that we install, but now also the contents that's out there that we are looking at when we're using the web and so on. And now I have to install all this, and that's important for me, but there's nobody out there who really talks about it. Viruses, yeah, there are people who mention it, but they don't mention it in regards to when you purchase a phone that it's an issue. It is. For me, it is. And it comes back to security, reliability. In my next movie, I'll take a look at these viruses, why I see that there is a point to this issue that I think you should consider when you go out and buy a new phone. So please come back again and see my next movie in regards to mobile viruses out there.